Back in 1916, John Rockefeller became the first billionaire, but his fortune was built on a secret arrangement that still affects how you buy groceries. Currently, only about 3,000 people belong to this exclusive club, representing a wealth scale so vast it operates like a separate species. Although most assume all fortunes are made the same way, the rarest tier of these elites relies on a phantom asset class that could vanish in an afternoon. To understand how they hold this power, we must look at the builders who start with nothing but a blank page. Consider the Founder Billionaire, who holds massive equity in the enterprises they built from the ground up. During 1995, the parents of Jeff Bezos invested $245,573 into his bookstore, a bet that returned millions of percent. Such creators rarely have liquid cash, because their net worth fluctuates by billions of dollars every time the stock market ticks up or down. Life for these founders is defined by constant public scrutiny, watched by shareholders who panic if the executive takes a single week of vacation. While these founders must constantly defend their position, another class of wealth chooses to walk away with everything. By contrast, the Exit Billionaire is the builder who chose cash over control, trading their stock for hard, liquid currency. When Jan Koum and Brian Acton sold WhatsApp to Facebook for $19 billion in 2014, they walked away with fortunes unaffected by market volatility. Members of this group don't have to worry about public earnings reports or hostile takeovers. Typically, they place their cash into private wealth management systems, investing in commercial real estate or venture capital. Yet, even the most successful exit requires years of intense labor, unless you happen to inherit the entire empire on the day you are born. Wealth is inherited by the dynasty billionaire, who enters the world with a fortune already secured by previous generations. For example, Alice Walton inherited a retail fortune from her father Sam Walton that has kept her near the top of the global wealth rankings for decades. Instead of running companies, these heirs manage their capital through family offices designed solely to preserve ancestral wealth. Ancestral wealth is the priority, meaning their primary challenge focuses on preventing the family fortune from being diluted among dozens of grandchildren. This hereditary wealth can last for centuries, but it faces a unique threat when a rival decides to corner the entire industry. Control defines the monopoly billionaire, who dominates the critical infrastructure or resources that an entire nation relies on. Throughout the 1990s, Carlos Slim acquired the state telephone company, eventually controlling over 90% of Mexico's landlines. Domination of an essential service forces consumers to pay your price, turning your business into a virtual tax collector. Often, these empires are built through political connections, making them incredibly difficult to dismantle. Although a monopoly controls physical resources, another group of billionaires focuses entirely on controlling what people think. Influence is the currency of the media billionaire, who trades in attention and the power to shape public opinion. Rupert Murdoch built an empire that bought the New York Post in 1976, establishing a political voice that spanned 3 continents. Profit is secondary to the leverage that owning news networks, newspapers, and publishing houses provides to these tycoons. Empire builders use their platforms to protect their other investments and sway public elections. Despite their massive public influence, the most powerful actors often choose to remain completely invisible. Secrecy shields the shadow billionaire, who operates entirely out of the public eye using shell companies and offshore trusts. The Kajal family owns 88% of the largest private company in the United States, producing dozens of billionaires who never appear on magazine covers. Offshore hubs like Switzerland or the Cayman Islands keep their names off global wealth tracking lists. Avoiding public markets shields their companies from hostile takeovers and escapes the scrutiny of regulators. Quiet stability protects them from sudden losses, but for those who do lose it all, the path back to the top requires an almost impossible recovery. Rebuilding a fortune defines the comeback billionaire, who recovers after experiencing a catastrophic financial collapse. At the peak of the dot-com crash in 2000, Masayoshi Son lost $70 billion of his personal wealth, the largest individual loss in human history. Rather than quitting, he placed a $20 million bet on Alibaba, which restored his status as one of the wealthiest people in the world. Reclaiming a fortune requires a rare psychological tolerance for risk and a willingness to gamble everything. Concentrated risk is not for everyone, and while some gamble on single bets, others spread their wealth across different industries. Diversification protects the diversified billionaire, who avoids the vulnerability of single stock ownership by building a conglomerate of unrelated businesses. Warren Buffett bought Berkshire Hathaway in 1965, transforming it into a holding company that owns insurance companies and national railroads. A conglomerate structure means that if one sector crashes, profits from other divisions keep the overall fortune growing. Allocating capital is their primary job, operating more like investment managers than operational executives. Accumulation is the typical goal, except for a rare group who decide their ultimate goal is to die with nothing. Giving it away defines the philanthropist billionaire, who pledges to return the vast majority of their assets to society during their lifetime. Chuck Feeney secretly gave away over $8 billion through his foundation, keeping only $2 million before his death in 2023. True philanthropists dismantle their own empires to fund global health and education. Success is measured by how quickly they can deploy their capital to solve human problems, leaving their personal accounts empty. Real money is required for this path, which brings us to the most fragile group of all. Paper billionaires exist only on paper, a creation of modern venture capital where wealth is tied to a balance sheet. Back in 2015, Elizabeth Holmes held a paper net worth of $4.5 billion, which evaporated to zero within a year when her technology was exposed as a fraud. Valuation in this tier is built on growth expectations and private funding rounds that value a company at billions before it generates a profit. If market sentiment shifts, the entire net worth can disappear without the owner ever touching a single dollar. Ultimately, $1 billion is a construct of trust and belief. Whether held in pipelines or fleeting stock charts, that power remains absolute. And while Rockefeller needed train cars to move his physical wealth, today's elite can lose a larger fortune in the time it takes to click a button.